So they placed phase one of the walls, and one of the things that came up, a lot of you guys questioned, was the height of the foundation. So Mike's out on the sidewalk, and he's going to talk about how we set the height of, our foundation. One of the things that drove the height was the water table. We didn't want the foundation down in the hole too much because we were going to be down below the water, but also civil, and everything really led us to setting this elevation. Now, when we stand up here, Mike, it looks like we're ramping up towards, and this right here is actually not our entrance, it's the recessed area that's our front entrance, right?
Yeah, the front entrance is over a little bit more.
It looks like from here to there we're higher. Is that the case?
Top of concrete is roughly 3 inches over the sidewalk elevation. But
so from here to the top of that form?
Top of, roughly, right? We didn't fill it to the top of the form. We set our grade on the inside, poured to that line. That's roughly 3 inches over from where we're standing now. But keep in mind, some of that foundation is exposed. So we'll keep our grade down roughly about 10 inches. So that would put us at if you're looking at the form, it would be like the second horizontal strap down.
Is our grade.
Roughly where the grade's gonna be.
So about 8 to 10 inches above that is actually where the top of the concrete is now.
Correct.
And that right there is about 3 inches higher than here.
Yep.
So, obviously it's really nice it was really nice where the house kind of was down in a gully, but it didn't work for drainage, it didn't work for the groundwater, it didn't work for the extra deep foundation. A lot of reasons it didn't work. So now we're actually going to be bringing in a lot of fill, right?
We're going to bring in the fill.
Do we know how many yards of fill we're bringing in, roughly?
Around 1,600.
1,600 yards of fill that will be brought into here to bring it up. One of the things, Mike, talk about the trees. How are we going to protect these? Because that was one thing that we've said right from the beginning. We can't just fill up against that tree.
No, we do have to slope it around there, and then that'll naturally kind of like funnel the water to the trees, which will help them out. But we just detail it around, making sure that we don't bury up against them.
Because as you walk this way, you're actually you're higher than down on that end there, right?
Correct.
And we're actually going to be, one of the things that we're going to talk about is we're going to be flip-flopping driveways.
Yeah, this driveway will come out. We're going to create a second, it will be the new driveway. It'll be our second entrance for construction. And so we'll be able to start filling that in, bring that up to grade.
Right.
We're actually going to start that work pretty soon.
So realistically, if we're talking this second strap is where our grade is, which you get this nice ramp here, that right there, pitch down to the tree, it's actually not as aggressive. And like you said, it actually can funnel the water to the tree for the health of that tree.
And away from the house.
Away from the house.
Yeah, we want to use that grade to our advantage and help that shed some water away from our foundation.
Sure.
To keep that basement dry.
Sure. So speaking of exposed, so we have a couple details on this home. We have brick in a lot of spaces. We have shingle, and we also have shiplap. But you talk about this 8 to 10 inches. The brick isn't really the issue for keeping it above grade. But when you deal with wood and things of that nature, in this case, we're going to be using a true exterior product by Boral. But code says we got to keep that stuff 8 inches above grade. And not to mention, we also have landscaping around the home that's going to work to our advantage. So they placed walls today. How many trucks showed up today?
7 trucks with roughly 11 yards on each truck.
That's a heavy concrete truck.
It is a very heavy concrete truck.
So no issues with them over compacting the driveway, this is probably really compacted at this point, which is nice. But you guys got phase 1 of phase 1. Let's call it phase 1.1.
1.1.
Placed today, poured, placed, whatever we want to call it. And
yeah, roughly we're right around 300 feet of wall.
Today.
There's about another 100 or so left to wrap up the main house foundation.
So we just missed the place. We thought we were going to be here in time, but when we got here, the last truck, I'm going to climb up here. You guys got all these walls placed. They even got all the anchor bolts. We got everything nice and screed top. Mike, walk me through what we got going on with these nails, these anchor bolts, the string line. There's a lot of things over here that led to a really good foundation. Yeah,
so they use the string line as they're pouring. It's a good visual, so you can see if you have any deflection as this is filling up with concrete. And then I'm going
to pause you. So this is for straightness of wall, not for height of wall.
Correct.
That's really important because you would think that they're taking this and measuring down for height.
No, grade was set previously. So they went around before, and all the nails are bent up right now. And you can actually see on the inside of the form, they snap their lines. So they went around with a laser, setting their grade, and then they know exactly where they need to stop on every panel around the house.
So then you got your anchor bolts.
Yeah.
You got a lot of anchor bolts here.
So the structural engineer called out for anchor bolts to be every 32 inches.
32 inches?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well,
because they're a structural engineer.
Structural engineer stamped
All right,
it. So
shout out to our structural engineer.
That's what we're going to do.
Keeping this thing strong.
Yes.
So what does code typically call for?
Code is every 5 feet. Typically what you see is people going roughly every 4, a little bit tighter than what the code calls out. And then there's also a dimension out of the corner. I think it's every 6 inches out of corners.
So for everyone on YouTube saying this, there's overkill, this is for you guys. We decided to be better than 4 feet. We're at 32, not even 3 feet, we're at 32 inches.
32 inches.
All right, so we got 300 feet of wall placed today, poured
Correct.
today, whatever you want to call it today.
Yeah.
You got your string lines, you got everything done. These guys are looking like they're wrapping up. Next step, you got that other wall back here, right?
Phase 1.2.
Phase 1.2. I actually want to, before we walk over there, what is all this foam for? This right here.
So that's what we built the brick shelf out of. So that went inside the wall before they placed with concrete, and that created the...
So we probably can't see, can we see it on this one?
Yeah, we can. If we move
All right, let's grab that ladder and take a look.
We actually have let's hop up on this ladder and go into this corner.
So like we said out front, there's a couple different siding materials on this project, and one of them being brick. So this right here is that foam.
Yep.
So walk me through. This is a 10-inch wall?
10-inch wall.
And then here we have a 10-inch wall, but with a brick shelf.
Yep.
So what does that brick shelf look like?
So it's a 4-inch deep pocket that we built into this. It's roughly 12 inches. We set it to grade. So that will bring the brick down, so we're not going to see that transition between the concrete and brick. We'll be able to grade around that, hide that transition. So we just used some foam and created a 4-inch deep by 12-inch tall cavity into the foundation.
That's a really great detail, and a really, something that you should pay attention to if you're doing brick facade, is to get that brick below grade. It's much nicer looking. It looks authentic. That brick goes below. It looks as though it's continuous and it's not cut up. I've always hated when you see a foundation with a chimney, and the brick starts above, that foundation. It just seems like a detail that can be caught. And this right here is a great opportunity to do that. You keep your top wall at the same height, but you're creating that brick shelf detail. Now, one thing to think about, Mike, what about when we do install that brick? How are we getting rid of the water behind that brick? Because you have a 4-inch cavity, so you do have an airspace behind it. So you're going to need to weep that water out. Yep.
So the bottom 2 to 3 courses, depending on how everything lays out with grade, we're going to actually fill that in solid and then bring the weepers up a couple of courses and allow that water to drain out.
So by knowing our grade ahead of time, we're able to pull that brick below grade, but also prep for a weep above grade.
Yep.
Cool. And so we're going to get into the phase 1.2, as you said, and that's by next week. We're going to have those walls placed.
Yeah.
And then after that, we're wrapping this thing, right, with our waterproofing and insulation.
Yep.
And that will allow us to do our 2 foundations, our 2 garage foundations.
Yeah.
And then we are ready for framing.
Almost.
Almost? Why?
Structural slab.
So we have the structural slab. So oftentimes in a lot of these projects, the slab does not need to go in. And sometimes they actually require the framing to be in. No, I'm sorry. Let me back. I'm definitely wrong on that. Sometimes they require the framing to be in to backfill it and the slab to be in. But in this case, we want to get our structural slab in because we have framing that sits on top of it.
Yep. Some load-bearing walls.
And that's what, going back to the haunch footings that were mentioned, that's really what those not haunch, what did I say?
Haunch footings. It's haunch slabs.
Haunch slab. Not always right, guys. We all know that. The haunch slab.
The cuff, right?
So we'll have those haunch slabs. You'll have your structural walls on top of them, and then we'll get our slab in place, and then we can backfill and be ready for framing.
Correct.
We'll check in next week. We'll have that other section of the foundation done. This will probably be stripped at that point, so we'll start getting a first look at what this wall looks like all finished. in preparation for waterproofing.